This anime begins by showing a teenage boy, Kamito, who accidentally sees a girl, Claire, bathing in a lake. However, he assumed the girl was still a kid because her body was small. Claire was angry knowing that Kamito peered at her, then she attacked him using the power of her fire spirit. She realized her body was not covered with a single thread and felt embarrassed. She accidentally aimed her whip at a tree that almost fell on herself. Kamito immediately saved Claire, but his hand unintentionally held her body. She beat him up until he fainted. When Kamito woke up, Claire had tangled his neck with a whip. He knew that Claire was from a holy girls' school, Araishia. He also wanted to go there because he got a letter from the principal of Araishia. She felt strange about the reason the school principal sent him a letter. Even so, she untied the whip around his neck. Claire went to the forest to calm down before trying to make a contract with one of the spirits in the woods. The spirit is a legendary sword, Demon Slayer. It is said that no one has been able to conquer it, so she intends to rule it over. Kamito decided to accompany Claire. Shortly after, they arrived at the temple where the spirit was seated. They entered the temple after unsealing it, and saw a sword embedded in it. Claire tried to make a contract with the sword. At first, she succeeded, but the real sword was not the one that stuck, but the one that appeared from above and instead attacked Claire and Kamito. She wasn't afraid and tried to fight it off by taking out her partner's cat. But her efforts were in vain. Her cat had to fall, and she was almost stabbed in the back. Kamito did not stay still and instantly helped Claire. He made a spirit contract with the sword forcefully and succeeded in making it, but after that, he fainted again. When Kamito woke up, he realized that there was a mark on his arm. On the other hand, Claire seemed angry and wondered why Kamito could perform a spirit contract when only women should be able to. However, a man could do that, the Demon King. She still didn't accept it, and asked him to make a spirit contract and become her slave. The scene changes to Kamito, who is finally taken by Claire to Araishia school. But he got away from her and went straight into the school building. His presence surprised other students. He reached the principal's room and heard the conversation of the person who disagreed if a man studied there. But the person sensed Kamito's presence and opened the door right away. There appeared a girl named Ellis, who was the head of the Knights. Ellis almost beats up Kamito but is prevented by Araishia's principal, Miss Greyworth. Kamito was looking for a spirit named Reztia, so he went to see Miss Greyworth. The principal reminded him about the agreement in the letter, in which he was required to attend school there. Kamito was invited around by Ellis, who showed him the house that he would occupy. The house was so small and next to the stable. Not only that, but he will also be placed in a troubled class. Meanwhile, Claire was walking while pondering. She thought that she needed to be strong quickly. Soon, she met Kamito and again forced him to become her slave. He agreed, but on the condition that he would kiss her. At first, Claire accepted, but when she was about to be kissed, she immediately changed her mind. They then met a teacher, Miss Freya, their homeroom teacher. Miss Freya told him to come to class and be introduced to other students. The students were excited by the presence of Kamito, a boy. Claire then spoke in front of her classmates that Kamito was her slave. When he was about to sit on an empty chair, she seemed disapproved and entangled him. But her action was prevented by another girl, Rinslet. They then fought over him to sit with them. At the same time, suddenly, Rinslet's maid accidentally fell and hit him. Seeing this, he was branded a pervert by his classmates. The scene changes to Kamito, who is resting at his house. He complained about the first day of school, which felt very tiring. In addition, he had to survive at the school for 2 months until the Blade Dance event was held, although he did not want to participate. On the other hand, Claire brought food because she felt sorry and did not want him to starve. While walking, she accidentally heard that there was a spirit contract ceremony tomorrow, in which the prize was a chance to make a contract with a military spirit. Meanwhile, he thought of Miss Freya's words about the history of Araishia School and the Blade Dance event. This event is significant because the winner can ask for a wish to be granted. Being hungry, he went to the canteen to buy some food. But he did not purchase it in the cafeteria because it was costly. Soon after, Rinslet and her maid came and brought Kamito food. But the arrival of Rinslet had a purpose, to offer him to be her slave. He refused her request and asked her just to be friends. At the same time, Claire arrived at Kamito's house. She seemed annoyed to see Rinslet trying to get close to him. Claire and Rinslet were involved in quite a tough fight. They even let out their own spirits and fought fiercely. Claire's fire cat spirit, Scarlet, accidentally set fire to Kamito's house. Seeing that, Rinslet took out her technique to extinguish the fire that burnt Kamito's house. But it not only extinguished the fire but also destroyed the house. Ellis and her friends suddenly showed up and scolded Claire and Rinslet for making a commotion. That pretty much explains why they were in a troubled class. Not only that, but Ellis also insulted them. She said that Claire was the traitor's sister and Rinslet family was not honorable. Her words suddenly made Claire and Rinslet angry because their family was being despised. Eventually, they challenge Ellis to a fight, and Ellis accepts it, but she asks for a 3-on-3 battle, which makes Kamito couldn't help but have to join the fight against Ellis. Claire took Kamito to her room because he had no place to go and he would stay with her for a while. The room seemed very messy. He decided to tidy it up, accompanied by Claire's cat, and accidentally took Claire's underwear. Getting panicked as she came over, Kamito tucked her panties into his pants instead. He then asked why Claire wanted to be strong. She responded that she was determined to win the blade dance. After that, she asked him to make a meal while she was taking a shower. In the bathroom, she was disturbed by a water spirit that suddenly appeared. Hearing Claire's screaming, Kamito helped her right away. After getting rid of the water spirit, she finally discovered that he kept her panties and instantly beat him up. They then had dinner, and Kamito asked her why she had to find a strong spirit. She said she wanted to meet her sister named Rubia Elstian, famous as the noble who set fire to a place. Therefore, she intended to find out the truth and ask Rubia directly. However, to be able to meet her, she was determined to be strong first. They went to Astro Zero's place to fight Ellis and meet Rinslet, who was already there. At the same time, Ellis and her friends also arrived. The fight occurred. However, since Kamito had just re-released the spirit after 3 years, the spirit that appeared was a small sword. The fight was fierce, but Kamito's team defeated Ellis's 2 friends. Kamito was about to attack Ellis, who instantly took out the ultimate technique, but she lost her concentration because Kamito praised her beauty. Shortly, a demon spirit, which recognized Kamito, emerged from the sky, surprising those there. Claire and the others were confused about why the demon spirit could enter Aricia. Ellis initially intended to fight the demon spirit, but Claire stopped her and said she would fight the demon spirit alone. Claire confidently said she would subdue the spirit, but Kamito warned her not to act rashly. Claire remained stubborn and fought it straight away, while Ellis helped from a distance. But Claire's attack didn't work, and she was exhausted from putting in so much energy. Kamito finally helped Claire because he realized she was just pretending to be strong. While Claire was almost eaten by the demon spirit, Scarlet instantly helped her by sacrificing herself. Seeing that, Claire cried sadly because her beloved spirit was dead. At the same time, Kamito tried to pull out his sword again but still couldn't. He didn't give up and tried again until finally, he removed his demon slayer sword and instantly killed the demon spirit with a single attack. Claire was sorry not to listen to Kamito. Shortly after, he fell unconscious because he was expending too much spiritual energy. Kamito then had a dream when he was still a disciple of the Demon King. He was given power once by a girl who was none other than Restia. He woke up and realized he was in Rinslet's room, but Kamito just felt surprised because there was a girl without clothes under his blanket. She was Est, which was Kamito's sword spirit, but he didn't know it yet. Shortly after, Rinslet came into the room. He asked Est to hide under the blanket again. Kamito then thanked Rinslet for taking care of him. She looked shy and asked him to leave immediately because men were prohibited from entering the women's dorm. He reasoned that he wanted to change his clothes first. But Rinslet and her maid noticed the suspicious movement behind his blanket. The curious Rinslet then uncovered Kamito's blanket and was very surprised to see a naked girl who hugged him. He tried to explain so that Rinslet did not misunderstand, but she was upset and immediately let out her spirit. But Estate managed to subdue Rinslet's spirit, which made Kamito realize that Est was his contract spirit. On the other hand, Claire seemed very down. Even so, she still hasn't given up, especially now that there's an opportunity to contract with a military spirit. She intended to enter the event and win it. Afterward, Kamito and Est went to Rinslet's room, where Est revealed her reason for choosing Kamito as her master. She said there were 30 people she rejected. She was interested in Kamito because she felt he looked like her. She came out because she was bored of being in the sword. Meanwhile, the other students accused Kamito of being a womanizer for bringing another girl. Shortly, Ellis came and scolded him for carrying Est. He tried to explain, and Ellis immediately understood. Kamito was worried about Claire. He had checked her room, but she was gone. Ellis then told about the military spirit contract event that will be held in the city this afternoon. But they had to do the blade dance to get that military spirit. Hearing that, Kamito thought that Claire must have attended the event. He finally decided to go there, knowing she didn't have the strength of a spirit. On the other hand, Claire met someone who offered her the power to restore the spirit of her dead cat. Hearing the offer, she accepted it immediately, without knowing that the power belonged to the devil. It was revealed that the person who offered it was Restia. Sometime later, Kamito was heading into the arena, while Claire had already fought against the other participants for the prize of military spirit. In that fight, she looked fragile without the help of her spirit contract. She became the subject of gossip and was called the traitor's little sister. In desperation, she suddenly took out the power Restia had given her. Claire's cat spirit appeared along with a black aura. Her powers left the other spirits out of control, and the spectators immediately ran out. The spirit she expelled was a raging spirit type. Kamito, who had just arrived, fought directly against the ravenous spirit that possessed Claire's cat. He also tried to wake up Claire, who still wanted power. She couldn't stand being bullied any longer, and felt lonely because she was constantly excluded. Hearing that, Kamito said that he would always be there for her. He even willingly became her contract spirit. He then told her that Scarlet was still alive, and her spirit had evolved. Upon learning that, she immediately smashed the mark on her hand while Kamito hit the seal on her cat spirit's forehead until they finally managed to defeat the raging spirit. Kamito asked where Claire got the power from. Shortly after, Restia came to surprise him. He didn't seem to believe that the person who gave Claire all the power and made all the mess out of it was Restia, while Restia said that she did all of that because of his wishes. She then attacked him, but he managed to evade her. She said that she had been waiting for him for 3 years. After saying that, she left, but he just remembered that he used to have a desire that no one else wanted. Meanwhile, the spirit he defeated had already turned into a giant golem spirit. Claire immediately took Kamito away from there, but he seemed still thinking about Restia. Claire asked for an explanation about Restia, and it turned out that she was Kamito's contract spirit. Therefore, he felt very guilty, but Claire told him to quickly regain consciousness because the giant golem spirit went towards the city, and only they could prevent it. But Kamito still seemed worried, so she finally kissed him. This made him focus again. They immediately pursued the giant golem spirit. Claire said she had little power, so he had to fight the giant golem spirit. Kamito said he would show the best sword dance, like Renash Bell. He began his attack by piercing the eyes of the giant golem spirit. On the other hand, Claire tried to hold the hand of the giant golem spirit so that he could also give his ultimate attack and successfully defeat the giant golem spirit. After that, Kamito fainted again, while Claire seemed astonished to see his sword dance that was so similar to Renash Bell. Kamito returned to the dorm, and again Est was in his blanket. Even the atmosphere was immediately chaotic when Claire caught him and Est. Moreover, Rinslet and Ellis were also there. They were furious at Kamito's behavior, which was considered lewd, and meant to beat him, even though they just misunderstood. On the other hand, a girl named Fianna was going to school in Araishia. The scene then moves to the past and shows Fianna struggling to fight a giant spirit. Shortly after, Kamito arrived at the place and tried to help her. It didn't take long. He knocked down the giant spirit using his sword. Fianna, who saw Kamito's sword, realized that he was similar to Renash Bell. Kamito turned out to be Renash Bell, the legendary blade dancer, and asked her to keep it a secret. She was willing to comply with his request in return for helping her. After that, he carried her out of the Astral Zero Woods. There, Kamito explained why he participated in the blade dance event because he had a desire. Before they separated, Fianna asked him to get acquainted and promised to meet again. The scene then goes back to Fianna wanting to meet Kamito in Araishia. Meanwhile, Kamito finally recovered after being treated for a week. He was about to prepare for training, but he was surprised by the presence of Est, who felt envious after seeing him kiss Claire, and Est also wanted to be kissed. At the same time, Claire, who had just finished showering, caught Kamito and Est about to kiss. She got angry and beat him up. The scene then turns to Kamito and his classmates sparring for a promotion. Miss Freya said a sparring team should be 5, but Kamito's team was only 2. Claire noted that numbers were not a problem, but they both were easily defeated. At lunchtime, Claire still seemed upset about losing the sparring match. Shortly, Rinslet came and joined Kamito and Claire. Rinslet's maid then provided information about a new student at their school. After that, Rinslet's maid whispered to Kamito and asked him to join Rinslet's team. She already had a team, but since she was too arrogant, all her teammates chose to leave her. Kamito then discusses with Claire Rinslet wanting to join their team. At first, she refused because she knew Rinslet couldn't cooperate, but she finally accepted it. On the other hand, Rinslet disputed Claire's words and thought that Claire wanted to get on her team, so they both pointed at each other. Ellis came to separate them, and unexpectedly, Ellis turned out to invite Kamito to join her team. But Claire stopped her and didn't allow Kamito to enter. He realized Claire needed him more, so he refused Ellis's invitation. Before leaving, Ellis told him that he had been asked to meet Miss Greyworth in her room. Elsewhere, Restia was met by someone who seemed very creepy. Meanwhile, Kamito went to see Miss Greyworth, who introduced the new student, who was none other than Fianna. He did not seem to remember who Fianna was, and she was aware of it, but she was reluctant to reveal her true identity. Miss Greyworth explained that Fianna's arrival at their school was to undertake a critical mission. Therefore, Miss Greyworth assigned Kamito and his team to protect Fianna. Elsewhere, the man who met Restia was Gio Inzaghi. They planned to enter a quarry. She said she had trouble getting into the place because of a seal. Hearing that, Gio proposed stealing important documents in the library to get in there. He also said that he would prove his eligibility as the successor to the Demon King. On the other hand, Kamito just found out that Fianna was a princess, so he immediately knelt in front of her. However, she told him to stand up and say that her title as a princess was no longer valid because her place of origin had been burned by Rubia. Fianna was nominated to be the next leader, but she rejected it. Miss Greyworth said that Fianna was going on an S-level mission. Therefore, Miss Greyworth asked Kamito to check a quarry because the reports said there was a frequent earthquake with no apparent source. Upon hearing it, he assumed that the mission was not difficult, even though it did not close the possibility that obstacles would prevent it. Miss Greyworth said that if he succeeded in the mission, then his rank would rise. When Kamito and Fianna left the principal's room, it was revealed that Miss Greyworth had planned for Fianna to enter Aricia. While walking with Kamito, Fianna admitted that she purposely picked him as her partner and referred to him as Renash Bell, but it seemed that Kamito didn't remember it yet. Not far from them, the other students seemed to be gossiping because they saw Kamito, who was again close to a female student. Hearing their gossip, Fianna became flirtatious and deliberately embraced Kamito. At the same time, Claire came and was jealous of them. Kamito then took Fianna to Claire's messy room. There, Fianna tried to make Kamito obey her, threatening to spread the fact that Kamito was Renash Bell. He couldn't help but comply with Fianna, who then asked about his relationship with Claire. Claire responded that Kamito was her contract spirit. Hearing that, Fianna knew that Claire and Kamito must have kissed. Fianna, who was envious, immediately challenged Claire to a duel to prove who deserved to be with Kamito. Claire was ready to fight, but Fianna asked for a cooking duel. Claire agreed, and they started cooking food. Sometime later, Claire served her homemade food that looked burnt and strange, and then it was Fianna's turn to serve her delicious food. But when Claire ate Fianna's food, she just fell unconscious. The scene changes to Kamito, who's in the shower. Fianna suddenly went into the bathroom and asked him to take a shower together. She tried to clean Kamito's body, but he tried to resist. The noise they made woke Claire up, and she caught them and took a shower with them instead. Fianna was again envious, seeing Claire's zeal. Shortly, Est came to inform that the school was under attack. The scene then shows the knights lost to Gio, who stole something he wanted. Ellis almost died in the fight. Luckily Kamito and Claire came in time and helped her. At the same time, Gio managed to escape, so Kamito and Claire went after him. When they arrived in the forest, Kamito and Claire caught him and were involved in a fight. Gio was able to control so many spirits that his strength multiplied. Claire eventually falls and leaves Kamito. Fianna got into the fight and was pushed back. When she was about to be attacked by Gio, Kamito immediately blocked the attack. Unfortunately, Kamito lost his power and got injured by Gio's attack. On the other hand, Gio chose to stop the fight and leave, while Fianna fell unconscious. The scene turns to Fianna, who dreams about the moment when she confronts Rubia Elstian. She has a spirit contract in the form of a robot, but her spirit robot can be easily defeated by Rubia. Shortly after, Fianna woke up when Kamito entered her room. He wanted to ask her something secret, but Claire came instead, so he immediately took Fianna from the room. On the other side, Rinslet, who was about to eat in the cafeteria, saw Kamito alone with Fianna. She was jealous and was about to catch up with them, but she lost her intention after seeing Claire, who was walking alone and seemed so agitated. Rinslet learned of Claire's anxiety, then offered a way to overcome it, but she asked for a condition before helping Claire. On the other hand, Kamito continued to walk to the forest with Fianna. He again asked Fianna who knew about his true identity. She gives a clue to him, so he finally remembers it. Fianna seemed disappointed because he did not see her at that time. Kamito means a lot to Fianna because he is her first love. Elsewhere, Rinslet told Claire what to do, putting her on Claire's team for a while. After Claire accepted the terms, Rinslet told her how to help Claire. The scene turns to Fianna and Kamito. Fianna apologized for taking advantage of Kamito to team up with him. Her intention was to be able to win the Blade Dance event so that she could realize her wish to become a princess again. Shortly after, Ellis and her friends caught Kamito and Fianna together. But Fianna was purposely being flirty even though Ellis reprimanded her. Ellis and his friends intended to pursue Gio to the quarry. She did it for revenge because the knight's name was tarnished by losing to Gio. Kamito offered Ellis to cooperate because their goals were the same. In the meantime, Claire seemed unsettled when she was about to try the way Rinslet told her. But when she wanted to try it again, Kamito entered the room, so the atmosphere became awkward. Then he decided to close the door and left. The next day, Kamito was ready to carry out his mission, but he was surprised to see Rinslet also coming along. Claire then explained that Rinslet might be able to help them, and Rinslet teased him instead. Shortly after, Fianna came, but it seemed she could not control her horse. Kamito was also surprised that Fianna could not ride a horse, even though she was a princess. The scene then changes to Kamito's team arriving at the quarry at night. They decided to explore the place and found a temple. Soon after, they heard the sound of battle from Ellis and her team fighting against Gio. Ellis and his friends turned out to have lost many times. She couldn't even fight back because all her attacks were quickly repelled by Gio. When Gio was about to kill her, Kamito and the others came and held Gio's attack. This is where the real fight begins. Kamito attacked Gio and engaged in a fierce battle using the irrespective swords. Kamito asked Gio for his real purpose. Gio replied that he only wanted to defeat him to find out who the real Demon King was. Kamito seemed indifferent to Gio's answer and managed to destroy some of Gio's swords. Nevertheless, the spirits possessed by Gio were numerous. Even Claire bounced because she couldn't resist Gio's power. Rinslet also attacked Gio, but her attack was easily withheld by Gio, who then attacked Rinslet back. Kamito was still trying to fight back, but his sword was shrinking because he had released a lot of spirit power. Seeing that, Gio said that Kamito was no longer what he used to be. Gio realized he had a chance, then prepared to shoot at Fianna and Ellis. Kamito didn't stay still and resisted Gio's attack, but he bounced away. They were defeated, and Gio intended to take them all. But Fianna was still standing and immediately fired at the bloodstone she had been hiding. Her shot managed to make Gio back off. After the fight, they all discovered that Fianna had no spirit contract and only had bloodstones. Therefore, Fianna refused to be the royal successor. She could enter Aristia because she used the power of the bloodstone. It was also used by Fianna to be able to join Kamito's team because she wanted to participate in the Blade Dance event and win it. Claire said that Kamito's team was full of lame people, but Fianna thought only Kamito's team would accept her. They proceeded to complete the mission, but Ellis and Rinslet could not continue, as they were severely injured. The others must immediately reseal the place as ordered by Miss Greyworth. Meanwhile, Gio felt upset about failing to beat Kamito. Rezdia was there, then told Gio that the Demon King was Kamito. But Gio didn't accept it, and insisted that he was the successor to the Demon King. Sometime later, Kamito and the others finally reached their destination. Kamito thinks that Gio is not the Demon King. Est also responded to Kamito's words by saying that Kamito is the real Demon King. Shortly, Gio appeared in front of Kamito, so they were again involved in the fight. At first, Kamito looked superior, but Kamito's sword was exposed to Gio's poison, so Gio had a chance to stab him. When cornered, Kamito tried to keep talking to Gio so that he could buy time. Finally, Claire came to help Kamito. Fianna was also prepared to start her spirit dance. When she began to dance, the spirits in Gio's body slowly came out. His body was not like the body of ordinary people because it was like a vessel for gathering spirits, so that he could get much stronger. Shortly after, Rezdia came there and said she wanted to awaken Kamito's true power. Gio hasn't given up, even though he doesn't care who the real Demon King is. Gio then asked Rezdia for help, and she was ready to lend her sword to him. She did it to make Kamito quickly awaken his true power. Gio then went after Fianna, but Kamito withstood Gio's attack. It made Fianna feel guilty because she was constantly protected by Kamito. She tried to get her spirit contract out as a giant robot. She managed to get her spirit contract out again, and they united to defeat Gio. The scene turns to Kamito, who is already in the room. When he woke up and uncovered his blanket, it wasn't Est who was behind it, but Fianna. She said she had to be close to him to get her spirit contract out. At the same time, Claire had just finished showering and caught them both. She was jealous and immediately beat up Kamito. The scene then moves on to the past and shows 13-year-old Ellis, who was watching the Blade Dance game. The match brought together Ellis' sister, who could easily be defeated by Renash Bell, who was the same age as Ellis. After seeing the game, Ellis became interested in Renash Bell. The scene switches to Kamito, who had just woken up. He suddenly heard Claire and Fianna's voices in the kitchen. They're both making chocolate because tomorrow is Valentine's Day. Kamito found them and asked whom they made the chocolate for since Aristia school was a girls' school. But Claire and Fianna didn't answer the question. On the other hand, Miss Freya met Miss Greyworth and discussed Kamito's team, which was still incomplete. Miss Freya was also curious about Kamito's true identity. But Miss Greyworth didn't go into detail and said that her sister Alice was going back to school to attend the Blade Dance event. Miss Freya then noted that many illegal traders are lately selling spirit seals in the middle of the city. It happened because of the upcoming Blade Dance event. Meanwhile, Kamito participated in sparring for the sake of raising his rank. Kamito and Claire are again competing with the same opponent so they can win quite easily. Even so, they were also created by the hassle of the water spirit, but Fianna managed to defeat it. They're up to 3rd place, leaving the game against Ellis's team in 2nd place, while the first rank is Ellis' sister. After the match, Fianna invited Kamito and the others to celebrate their team's victory. S said she wanted to, but other students tried to provoke Kamito's team. At the same time, Rinslet came and made the students leave. She invited Kamito and the others to eat together. At first, they refused, but Rinslet begged so Kamito and the others would. But before eating, Kamito had to attend an extra class first. The scene then changes to Ellis, who is also attending the class. She seemed to be memorizing the lesson. Kamito approached her, but she took out her sword instead. She apologized, then Kamito told her some crucial things from the class. She felt significantly helped and wanted Kamito to teach her again. He intended to teach her today, but he has another errand, and maybe he could teach her at 5 in the afternoon. She didn't mind and was willing to wait for him. She also told him about selling illegal spirit seals in the city. After finishing additional classes, Kamito and the others seemed to be walking to the restaurant. Claire seemed to stop and look around at the necklace displayed in the storefront of a jewelry store. Kamito then approached Claire, but she looked embarrassed and hurried away. He looked confused by her attitude, but Rinslet came to him and told him that Claire's birthday was tomorrow to coincide with the Valencia party. Upon arrival at the restaurant, Est asked Kamito to allow him to order all the food menus because he had made a promise. On the other hand, the waitress was a spy and monitored Kamito's team. As time went on, Kamito met with Ellis to study together. At first, he wanted to take Ellis to the library, but she asked him to study in her room. He didn't have a choice, so they went to Ellis' room. Once there, it looked so neat. Ellis said it was the first time she'd take a man to her room. She then said that she wanted to change, but it turned out that Ellis changed it into maid cloth. Kamito was confused to see Ellis' appearance. She then explained that she got advice from her friend that a man likes a woman who wears waitress cloth. He responded to Ellis by saying that he did not like it. She got angry and didn't accept Kamito's words, then pointed her sword at him. He couldn't help but take what she did. He then told her to bring out her other talents besides the sword. Ellis was able to cook, so she prepared food for him. When eating it, he seemed happy and praised her delicious cooking. He said that she was gifted to be a good wife. Hearing this, Ellis became awkward and forced him to continue eating. After studying together, they seemed to talk in the garden. There, Ellis said about his sister. She also said that maybe this was the first and last time Kamito's been in her room. She said that because her older sister, Velsaria, was returning to school. Velsaria was once the head of the Knights, but since losing to Renashbel, she suddenly changed so that she was thrown out of the position Ellis now occupies. Ellis then complained about her work as a knight because, at the moment, many of her members were injured. Shin then asked him to join, and he agreed because he intended to help. On the other hand, Claire was making chocolate again and was caught by Kamito, who had just come home. She scolded him because he left without saying goodbye. She was even more upset when she discovered he had just visited Ellis's room and accepted her offer to be a knight. Hearing that, Claire sent Kamito out of her room. She looked so sad. He was her spirit's slave and shouldn't have left her. Shortly after, Fianna came and tried to calm Claire down. The following day, Kamito was awakened by Est because he slept in the middle of the forest. Est then asked him to promise he would not leave her as he left Claire. The scene then shows Ellis delivering a mission to her team to protect the city holding the Valencia festival. When Ellis introduced Kamito as a new member of the Knights, Velsaria came. She was furious when she learned that many knights had fallen for being too weak. She then explained the purpose of her arrival. She was looking for someone who could be recruited to be on her team. Ellis rejected Velsaria's intention, but Velsaria grew even angrier and showed enormous power, making many knights fall. Even so, 4 people were still firm in holding Velsaria's power, so she recruited them and left. Ellis invited Kamito to continue his mission, but he wanted to help members injured by Velsaria's attack earlier. After that, Kamito and Ellis carried out their mission to protect the city. Kamito, who had just become a knight, looked very exhausted. Shortly after, Ellis felt hungry, so Kamito wanted to buy her a meal. But she prevented it because she brought many foods, then they ate with the other members. They also felt entertained seeing Est in her cute human form. Kamito accidentally saw Claire's cat, so he immediately went after it. Claire and Kamito finally met. Even though she was still mad at him, she wanted to make up. But Kamito said that he was on duty and eating with the other knights. Kamito's words upset her, worsened by Ellis's coming to see them. Claire immediately threw the pouch with her homemade cake in it at Kamito. When she ran, Claire was noticed by 2 students who wanted revenge on her. At the same time, a woman, who disguised herself as a waitress in a restaurant yesterday, appeared. She was about to manipulate 2 students who wanted revenge on Claire. On the other hand, Velsaria looked at Ren Ashbel's photo, which instantly made her heart ache. That's where she said she would take revenge on Ren. Claire ran into the forest. She was still upset and remembered her goal to be strong to meet her sister. Claire was then surprised by the woman who was at the restaurant. Meanwhile, Kamito and Ellis are both on patrol. There, Ellis felt like they were dating, until they accidentally held hands. She did not dismiss or refuse, and even she wanted him to keep holding her hand. Shortly after, Ellis stopped in front of the dress store and looked at the dress on display. She felt unsuitable to wear the dress because she wore too many knight's clothes. Kamito then asked why she wanted to be a knight. She replied that she was inspired by Velsaria. Unfortunately, Velsaria's attitude has changed since she was defeated by Ren Ashbel. Therefore, she would like to show her how the real knight is. He then asked if she hated Ren Ashbel. She replied that she was impressed with Ren because the sword game differed from the others. She felt that Ren Ashbel was doing it for someone else, not herself. Kamito was relieved to hear her answer and invited her to accompany him to the shop. On the other hand, the enemy trapped and almost manipulated Claire. Luckily, she got away. At the same time, there were 2 students that Claire had defeated, and they immediately released their spirit contract. Kamito bought something for Claire's birthday. That's where Ellis felt that Claire didn't hate him because Claire also gave Ellis chocolate. Soon after, there was an explosion in the middle of the city, and Kamito and Ellis headed straight for it. Once there, a giant spirit was spotted that had been cursed. Kamito and Ellis had trouble fighting the spirit. He then helped the little girl who wanted to be targeted, so he was injured. Kamito realized that only he could defeat the spirit, so he forced himself and tried to attack the spirit again. Ellis also helped Kamito, but neither of their attacks worked at all. When he was cornered and almost had another spirit attack, Claire came along with the spirit. Ellis then asked Claire to help her, and when they were about to attack, they were startled by an explosion that instantly destroyed the spirit. It came from Velseria's robotic spirit. Not only destroy spirits, but Velseria also destroys the houses around her. Even so, Velseria appeared to have no sense of guilt. Velseria said that Ellis was not fit to be a knight. Kamito was very irritated by Velseria's words. Kamito wanted to tell Velseria to withdraw her words, but he was made unconscious by Velseria. The scene turns to Kamito, who just woke up and ate Claire's chocolate. At the same time, Claire came to the room. Kamiko praised Claire's cake, which tasted pretty good. He then gave her a birthday present. He explained that he decided to become a knight with Ellis to get a wage and be able to buy her a gift. Claire apologized for the misunderstanding. When they were about to kiss, Fianna came interrupted. Fianna said that their team will be competing tomorrow against Velseria's team. Hearing that, Kamito noted that he had prepared a plan to defeat her. But he needed someone who could attack remotely. At the same time, Rinslet came into the room and listened to Kamito's plan. She volunteered to become a member of his team because she did have the skills to launch a long-range attack. Meanwhile, Ellis seemed to be staring into her room and thinking about Velseria's words. Soon, Claire came and tried to cheer her up so she could rise again as a knight. Claire then invited Ellis to join her team. Ellis initially refused because she already had a team. Shortly after, the 2 Ellis teammates entered and said they were still being treated and couldn't attend the Blade Dance event. Ellis said that they had promised to fight together, but knowing the condition of her team, it was impossible. She had no choice but to join Claire's team. On the other hand, Velseria was impatient to fight Renash Bell. Shortly after, the woman who attacked Claire came. They both seemed to know each other. Even the woman also knew of the heart disease suffered by Velseria. Meanwhile, Ellis met Kamito, whose condition was getting better. He seemed happy that Ellis wanted to join his team. Unfortunately, he was banned from competing by Claire because his condition was not yet possible. Ellis then gave him a chocolate, and they were sure to win against Velseria. The day of the match arrived. Ellis said she would show Velseria the way of her knights. After that, the 2 teams entered Astral Zero. Claire's team was seen making plans, but suddenly Velseria came in and said she alone was enough to fight the 4 of them. She attacked them immediately, but her attack was countered by Rinslet using her arrows. Fianna then used her robotic spirit to hold Velseria. They again tried to attack Velseria a second time. Claire and the others felt confident that the attack could defeat Velseria. Unfortunately, they were wrong because Velseria was still strong. S then said that they needed great power to defeat Velseria. Meanwhile, Velseria began to carry out a relentless attack that left Fianna's robotic spirit unable to survive much longer. Claire then said that she would make a gap. She was distracted, ran close to Valeria's robot legs, and managed to burn her. At the same time, Rinslet also fired her arrow in the same direction. This caused Velseria's robot to experience extreme temperature changes, so it began to crack. Ellis immediately took the opportunity and managed to destroy Velseria's robot. Even so, Velseria still hasn't given up and got back on her feet. But suddenly, the robot spirit of Velseria let out a black aura. Velseria wore a curse seal, but she couldn't control it until she attacked her teammates. On the other hand, Miss Freya asked Miss Greyworth to stop the match immediately. But Miss Greyworth still insisted on continuing the game. The scene goes back to Astral Zero. Claire and the others were being absorbed by Velseria. Even Kamito could not stay still and will help. S then reminded Kamito that he only had a little strength because his body wasn't stable. He remained confident and would maximize his existing power. On the other hand, Ellis was about to try to fight Velseria, but the wind didn't come out because it was already absorbed by Velseria. When Velseria was about to finish Ellis, Kamito came and saved her. Claire was angry because Kamito forced himself, but he decided he was okay. He then challenged Velseria to fight him first because Velseria did want to fight Renash Bell. He took out a fighting style similar to Renash Bell. Even though he was still injured, Kamito was lively. Finally, his strength remained a little longer. Seeing that, Fianna immediately gave him healing magic, so he was back in shape. They formed the last formation right away to defeat Velsaria, and Kamito finally managed to beat her. Afterward, Velsaria realized he was Rinashbel, the one who had defeated her, and she said she had lost again. After saying that, she fainted. On the other hand, the woman who disguised herself as a waitress and knew Velsaria turned out to be Vivian. She was the one who gave the evil spirit into Velsaria's heart. Vivian was interested in Kamito, but Miss Greyworth addressed Vivian, who had been bothering her students a lot. Vivian was also Miss Greyworth's apprentice. Vivian tried to escape, but Miss Greyworth immediately killed Vivian. Rezdia was watching the incident, and said she would try to keep Kamito from bowing to Miss Greyworth. The scene turns to Kamito and the others throwing a party to celebrate their victory. Kamito was always seduced by the girls, but he was amazed to see the new Ellis coming and wearing a dress. Ellis said that she had already proven herself to be a knight. Velsaria was now going to undergo treatment for her heart disease. The anime ends by showing Kamito and others appointed to represent the school of Araishia in the Blade Dance event. The moral value that can be learned from this anime is never to be tempted instantly to get something because success is obtained by hard work and sacrifice.